Hello, everybody, and either welcome or welcome back to the Jen the Libertarian podcast. If you like this, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and Libertarian Institute. And I do also now have a Patreon page, which links I will put in the show notes, but you can find me on Patreon at Jen Monroe. So it is that time, once again, to do a Democratic debate roundup. They have decided to torture us again by having a debate on this past Tuesday. So, of course, I watched it, and I wanted to go ahead and give a little bit of a summary and give my thoughts on it. As far as I know, I think there is one in November. Well, in fact, I know there's going to be another one in November because it's going to be here in Atlanta, and I'm trying to maybe scheme a way to try to go to it. I mean, I don't think they'll let me in the building, obviously, but maybe go adjacent to the debate and look at it. And I believe there's also going to be one in December. So there's going to be at least 2 more of these to get through this year. And then there's going to be a few more in 2020 before the primaries, I do believe. I do think they wrap up before the primaries, if memory serves. But anyway, on to this one that's just passed. It was one night, 3 hours, and they did actually manage to keep it in at time, which, thank God, because I'm in Atlanta. I'm on the East Coast. These things end at 11 o'clock for us. When they end on time, this is getting to be torture, people. But there was 12 candidates on stage, which that is a lot of people to be on one stage. And apparently it's actually the most ever in any kind of primary debate that has ever been like on a stage at the same time as 12 people. So we have that. And they started out, the first question was, of course, with impeachment. And obviously, everybody on the stage actually does support impeachment. Obviously, duh, it's a Democratic primary debate. You already know who these people are. But the response I was most interested in was to see what Tulsi would say, because Tulsi has been, in the past, openly anti-impeachment. She just doesn't feel like it's a very practical or useful thing to do. So I was very curious to see how she was going to answer that question. And she really, really, really straddled the line between not saying that she is pro-impeachment, but that maybe the inquiry wouldn't be such a bad idea, and you kind of not completely changing her position to be pro-impeachment like everybody else on the stage, but kind of softening it so that it's more palatable to where I would suppose the whole Democratic Party is right now, which is to be pro-impeachment. So that was a very interesting way to start the debate. I don't know if that's where I would have started, per se. I feel like there were better places to start, not to say that I wouldn't have worked impeachment in there somewhere, but anyway, that's where they started. And then from there, we moved on to what I like to call the Let's All Pile on Elizabeth Warren segment, which I was very much here for. The first question that was put to her, and this question has been put to her several times in debates, I've talked about this before, but point blank asking her the question of, would her Medicare for All plan raise taxes on the middle class? And Bernie has actually answered this question. He did point blank say, I believe it was in night 1 of the second round of Democratic debates. I've watched a lot of debates. They all kind of merged together in my head. But he did point blank have to admit that, yes, it would raise taxes on the middle class. So Bernie has admitted to it. Elizabeth Warren spent a very large amount of time dancing around answering what is a very clear yes or no question. And obviously the answer is yes, duh. But unlike Bernie, she is not comfortable saying that. And there was all kinds of like obfuscation and dancing around and making this argument that, well, Americans are going to pay less for health insurance and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other, but not actually answering the question. And actually, this was one of the moments where Pete Buttigieg really kind of got his foothold in the debate, and we'll talk more about that later, but he point blank hammered her on that by saying it's a yes or no question, like slamming her for not just answering the question. And Bernie also kind of piled on her too for not answering the question. And so there, yeah, It was obvious in this debate that everybody on stage was kind of viewing Warren as the front runner now and treating her accordingly, which is something a lot of people expected going into this debate. But it was very interesting how much time candidates spent attacking her on that's a perfectly logical line of attack. Like, you won't answer the question. You've repeatedly not answered this question, and it's getting to the point where even other Democrats are attacking you for not just saying if you'd raise taxes on the middle class, and not just point blank saying it, because it's pretty obvious that's what's going to happen. I mean, there's no way that you can just tax the tippy top 1% and pay for all of Elizabeth Warren's big, great plans. Like, there's not enough money there. Logistically speaking, there's just not enough money. And actually, Biden sent out a tweet after the debate pointing out that even if you completely shut down our whole military industrial complex, if you completely shut down the whole military and took that money and put it towards Medicare for all, it still wouldn't cover everything. You'd still have like 6 months of uncovered liability, even if you did all that. So like, the numbers are just astronomical and they don't work. But God bless anyone that could get her to actually admit that into a hot mic. So that was a very interesting exchange, especially with Buttigieg kind of getting in there and kind of flexing his muscles and kind of getting himself some stage time. Like, Buttigieg got some stage time. Like, it was very interesting. And it's not that Buttigieg is technically considered a front runner at this point or even in like the top 3, but he's moved up in the polls. He's gained a little bit in respectability. Like, he's getting a little more camera time, getting a little more stage time. So that was a very interesting thing to see. The next really, really interesting part of the debate, also involving Buttigieg, is the dust-up between Tulsi and Buttigieg over the Syria situation. I'm not calling it a troop withdrawal. I've already made my opinions clear on that. It's not a troop withdrawal. It's a troop move-all to God knows where. And obviously Tulsi is in support of this, and Buttigieg is not. And I think Buttigieg did do a very good job of explaining his position. And the reason why this is so interesting, obviously, is both of them are the only 2 veterans that were on the stage. Obviously, Tulsi is a veteran of Iraq, and Buttigieg is a veteran of Afghanistan. So both of them are speaking from a place of actually being in the military, and I can respect that, but their opinions are wildly different. Like, we already know Tulsi's opinion. She wants to end, as she put it, the regime change wars, which, okay, fair enough. Again, I've made my opinions known about the Syrian situation and how this isn't that at all, but anyway. But Buttigieg made the point that this is not the way that you should really be going about it, that there are other ways. And so he's not in support of this. And it was just a very interesting exchange to watch between these 2 people who, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think they've ever spoken to each other on the debate stage before. And so interesting to have this be like the first exchange between the 2 of them, especially given their backgrounds and especially given the fact that they are talking about an active current military, whatever the fuck you want to call this. I don't even know what to call the Syrian situation anymore. But anyway, fascinating. Like, for me, one of the most interesting parts of the evening. The other very interesting exchange from that debate is the one that happened between Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang on the topic of automation/job loss. Bernie's plan is to have a federal jobs guarantee. Obviously, Yang's plan is UBI. And so they actually had a little bit of a sparring match over whose plan is better than the other person's plan. And I felt like, even though I'm not a huge fan of Yang, I think he made some good points in that I'm not a fan of UBI. And I still think it's an incredibly stupid idea, but he did make some points that it would be better than a federal jobs guarantee, which, yeah, I mean, he made a fair argument for his case. Bernie obviously made his argument for his case because, of course, Bernie is a socialist. And so clearly government run everything and government employer of everybody would be his shtick. Clearly, obviously. I mean, Bernie is who he is. He's never made any kind of like he's never hit it or anything, but it was just a very, very interesting exchange. And on the topic of Bernie, because as some of you will probably remember, probably only like a week and a half ago, Bernie had a heart attack and he had stents put in. And so there was some question whether he would be able to make it to the debate at all, because obviously he just had surgery. He just had this health problem. But he was there and he actually looked good, like physically. I mean, as good as Bernie can look. Like, he didn't look sickly. He didn't look pale. He didn't look like he just had a heart attack. Like, he looked like Bernie always does. But he was present. He was there. He was Bernie. He didn't seem diminished in any way. It was kind of amazing. You wouldn't think, like, you wouldn't have thought to see him on that stage on Tuesday night that he had just had, like, surgery. Like, he had just had a heart attack. So I guess there is something to be said for that. And Bernie kind of got the fun part of the evening, because there was a discussion, and Cory Booker had brought up the idea of legalizing marijuana, and it kind of segued into this joke about how Bernie also supports it, but that he wasn't on it that night. And so, of course, there's laughs, there's jokes, whatever. It was funny. Like, it was genuinely funny. Like, he cracked a weed joke about how he supports it, but he's not on it right now. And so, that was fine. But Bernie was still Bernie, still screaming the same Bernie stuff that Bernie's been screaming for decades. But it was just kind of astonishing to see how good he looked. Like, I didn't really expect him to look like his normal self, but he did. And speaking of normal self, and also about some other people on the stage, the question was brought up about age. And our front runners are very, very old. Very old. Like, you forget how old they are. Right now, Bernie is 78 years old. Biden is 76 years old, and Elizabeth Warren is 70 years old. Trust, guys, when I am in my 70s, I am not running to be president of the United States. I'm not running anywhere unless my life is in danger. Like, these people are old as hell, and you don't really think about it, especially since, and not to put anybody's business out in the streets, but it's obvious Biden has had work. It's pretty obvious that Liz has had work. Bernie has never looked young, so there's no shocker there, but I was surprised that they did actually go there and have that discussion about how, yeah, y'all old as dirt, and are you really, like, are you really gonna be fit to be president? Like, even, I mean, if they're this age now, like, obviously, add probably about 2 years before you get inaugurated into being president of the United States, if they win, you're gonna, like, that's really old, like, really, really old, and that's probably something that people need to worry about. But yeah, I was just surprised they brought it up, because it is kind of a delicate topic, and it's one that I've seen people kind of talk about a bit online, but not really discuss openly about, especially when it comes to Bernie. But yeah, just an interesting moment. And Biden's response was that, well, that's why I'm running for president, because I'm old and I have experience. And it's like, okay, dude, you might not want to tout that experience right about now, buddy, especially not as VP. But anyway, oh, and another fun thing that happened. Anderson Cooper stabbed Biden right in the damn heart, because he asked him point blank about Hunter Biden. And the question was, and just a little bit of backstory, Hunter Biden is apparently quitting the jobs that he has that may be a conflict of interest if his father were to become the Democratic nominee or president of the United States. And so old Andy asked him point blank, like, okay, you say it's not okay for a president to have children who have certain jobs and are making money off of certain situations. Why was that okay when you were vice president? And of course, there's no real good answer to that, because obviously there's no real good answer to that. So Biden kind of stumbled his way through it. But I was just like, damn, you just went right for dude's neck. Like, you just straight up asked him about his son and about how it's not okay for Trump's kids to have the jobs that they have, which it's not. I mean, they're to compare the Trump kids to what Hunter Biden did is like apples and oranges. Like, Hunter Biden never worked in the White House. He's off having vanity jobs, getting paid God knows what. Okay, it's nepotism, it's shitty, it sucks. It's not even in the same fucking league as what the Trump kids are doing. But it is a valid question. Like, okay, if it's not okay to have kids doing certain things when you're president, why was it okay to have kids doing certain things when you were vice president? But that was... Overall, I think Anderson Cooper did the best job of moderating. Like, he actually seemed really present, asking good questions. And of course, I know all these questions are scripted ahead of time. It's not like he's thinking of them off the top of his head, but his questions were good. They were, like, really good. So, with all that being said, those were kind of the highlights of the debate for me. And so, let's go ahead and move on to our traditional winners and losers section of this past debate, which I've lost count. I don't even know what debate we're on anymore. Is it number 5? I think it's 5. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Okay, anyway, moving on. Winners and losers. So, my winner of the debate, and for what it's worth, there seems to be a general consensus that this is the overall winner of the debate, and that is Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He had an amazingly strong showing, like way, way beyond anything anybody expected. Like, he had that moment with Elizabeth Warren. He had that moment with Tulsi. He also had a moment with Beto calling him out on his gun plan, basically calling it to his face a shiny toy for him to play with. And he just came out really, really strong and really strident. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise. And yeah, I think a lot of people walked away who may not have known who Buttigieg was really, or not really cared, kind of surprised and maybe giving him a second look. I'd be very interested to see what happens to his poll numbers after this debate. And my other winner, and nobody else is really calling this, but I'll go ahead and say it, Cory Booker. He didn't have any kind of great flashy standout moments, but the moments he had were really solid, despite the vegan comment. And it seems to me he's really positioning himself as trying to be the candidate on stage who is kind of calling for a more calm, peaceful, not so aggressive, antagonistic tone towards each other. And to kind of, he made the point at one point that somebody on that stage is going to be the Democratic nominee. And so maybe we should not spend so much time attacking each other. Maybe, guys. And it seems to me he's making a play for a VP bid. That's what that is. And I've been saying this whole time, that it's going to be Warren Booker 2020. So I'm still sticking with that, because I don't know if Warren is going to end up on the top of the ticket. There's so much time left, and it's so wild to think about. Like, we're over a year into this election cycle. Like, we just passed the year anniversary of Warren's DNA test. That tells you how long this election cycle has been going on. And we still have another year plus to go, people. Oh my God, we haven't even started primary voting. And then obviously after that, we have general voting. And oh my God, this is going to be an absolute fucking dumpster fire. You can see it already, especially with the backdrop of impeachment, and God knows what the fuck else can possibly happen between now and November of next year. But I'm sure there will be more things happening. But yeah, I have been saying that it's going to be Warren Booker, and I'm still staying by that. And in that debate, it seems to me like he's really trying to position himself to be that guy, to be like the kind guy, the guy let's all get along and let's be nice to each other, because I want you to pick me as your VP pick. But it was nice. Like, there was a little tone of civility, I suppose, although I really don't like that word. But anyway, moving on to the losers from the debate. Let's go ahead and start with the person who shouldn't even fucking be on the stage anymore. That's Beto O'Rourke. Why is he still here? Why is he still here? How the fuck is he on that stage? I'm sorry, what? I will do my customary rant at the end of this about the whole debate format and the way this is set up and qualifications, but he's got no business being there anymore. I don't even know what he's polling at anymore. I don't even know if he's polling at 1%, like overall nationwide, but he looked like a damn idiot. Doubled down on the whole AK-47, we're going to take away all your assault rifle thing. It's like, just go away, dude. Just go. Like, it's not happening. It's not happening. You should never have done this in the first place. Please just exit and go do something else. I don't even know what you would do at this point, because you've pretty much trashed any goodwill that you had after the Senate run. So I don't know. Beto needs to go away. My second loser is Kamala Harris. Again, of course, another person who I don't even really understand why she's still in this. I mean, it makes a little more sense than Beto, I suppose, but her poll numbers are garbage too, and her great moment of the debate was making an extended argument about how Donald Trump should get kicked off Twitter, because that's clearly the most important fucking thing to be talking about right now, is whether Donald Trump should be on Twitter or not. And she point blank asked Elizabeth Warren if Warren, like, backed her or agreed with her on this topic, and Warren's just like, no, I'm not, no. Like, what are you even talking about? Why are we talking about this? There's 15 other things going on right now, and you want to talk about Donald Trump being on Twitter. Like, it was just such a stupid moment, and there was no other redeeming moment for her. There was really no, like, pop moment, except for the times that she started code switching, and I was just like, what is she doing? So I don't know. I'm very interested to see if she makes the next debate too. Like, I don't see Beto being there at all. I'd be very surprised if Kamala's going to be there. That being said, I don't really know what the criteria is for the next debate yet. I don't know if they've announced it, but when I know, I will let you guys know. But anyway, on to honorable mentions. And my first one is Joe Biden, which, I mean, Joe Biden looked like Joe Biden. Not great, not spectacular, not horrible, just kind of there. I mean, he's still going to be in the top 3. I mean, there's really nothing. That's the thing about Joe Biden, and also to an extent with Bernie, is like, you already know what you're getting. Like, there's nothing, you're not going to hear anything new and exciting out of either one of these dudes. Like, you already know what their stances are. You already know where they stand. They've been in politics long enough. You can evaluate their record. Like, there's nothing new there. You're not going to get anything. You're not going to get any new soundbite out of either one of those dudes. So, yeah, he was there. Whatever. My second honorable mention is Julian Castro. And that's because he actually did have a very, very good moment on the topic of gun violence. And he made the point about how, obviously, when you grow up poor, you grow up rough, you don't really call the cops all that much, because you understand more intimately sometimes than upper middle class and upper class people do about what happens when you call the cops. And his great kind of standout moment from that speech was saying that police violence is gun violence, which, yes, especially in where we're at right now with the whole Amber Geiger situation, and then the Dallas shooting, and it's like, yeah, that is an incredibly valid point, and something that I think really should be unpacked is the idea that police violence is gun violence, because, I mean, cops are killing people with guns that, first of all, they shouldn't have even freaking been in this situation to begin with. But anyway, that's a whole nother rant for a whole nother time, but I thought that was a really excellent point, and I'm glad that he made it. And then my third honorable mention is Tulsi. Tulsi didn't have, I don't think, like the same kind of pop moment that she normally has in these debates, where there's like that one really like viral clip of her that goes around. I know a lot of people were excited about the regime change war thing. I'm very meh on that. Not that I'm against pulling out of the Middle East, but just this whole situation. Anyway, but what could be a big moment, and I'm surprised this didn't really gain more traction, but she point blank went after the media for its portrayal of her. And to be fair, I'm not the biggest Tulsi fan, but a lot of the times when the media does stories about her, I do think they cover her rather unfairly. I don't think it's fair to say she's a Russian asset. I don't think it's fair to say she's an Assad puppet. I think a lot of the criticisms of her are unfair, and I do have plenty of fair criticisms about her. But she point blank, and this was a CNN hosted town hall. So she was going after CNN. She was going after the New York Times. She was going after the Washington Post on their own platform, which is pretty fucking ballsy, especially given that she had actually threatened earlier to boycott the whole debate altogether over the media's coverage of her. Thankfully, she did end up going, because I don't think that boycotting the event would have been the best use of her time and the best use of the attention that she had. I mean, it was already dicey enough her getting onto the stage in the first place. Like, if you're getting on that stage, you stay your ass on that stage. Like, you don't take yourself off that stage. You make them take you off the stage. So she had that moment, and for me, there was a topic, or well, not a topic, obviously, but there was discussion upon the idea of abortion, the topic of abortion, and everybody's answers were various sorts of, the usual kind of more progressive talking points, but Tulsi brought it back to the Hillary Clinton ideal of safe, legal, and rare, and also kind of ruling out the idea of third trimester abortions, which in different times, insaner times, would have been a perfectly acceptable answer for a Democrat to put out. Apparently, this idea is now kind of centrist to almost right-wing. I don't know, but I liked her answer. It felt like, and I encourage you to go watch the whole video because I'm kind of trunicating it, but it felt like a very well thought out answer. Like, she actually thought about the question and has grappled with the idea and the concept of abortion and gave a genuine, heartfelt answer that wasn't the normal kind of talking points, wasn't like, oh, it's just abortion for everybody all the time, anywhere, but an actual, like, honest opinion on what her views are on abortion. And I liked it. I thought it was rather refreshing to just hear somebody just be like, hey, this is how I feel. It's a little complicated. It's a little messy, but here you go. Here's my answer. And now I will wrap this up with my usual customary rant after each one of these debates, is that the DNC has to start doing something about this debate format. There's way too many people. There's way too fucking many people. And I am not a fan of the 2-night setup. Like, I've bitched about that. Every time I've had to cover the 2-night setup, there's no way in high holy hell, once you start getting into next year and people start paying attention, you are not going to be able to pull that off. People are not going to watch a 2-night debate. It's going to be really rough to get people to watch a 1-night 3-hour debate. Like, they've got to figure out a way to get this down to like 1 night, 2 hours. If you want the general public to watch this and stay watching it all the way to the end. The only people watching this right now is us nerdy-ass people who either are deep into the weeds in politics or actually cover it for whatever platform you cover it for. The general public is not going to endure this. So I don't know at this point what the DNC needs to do. Like, they need to start being way more draconian about qualifications to get on the stage. And yes, that's going to cut out a lot of fan favorites, I know, but especially when you start looking at, I mean, overall, they've got to start cutting down this field. Like, this is out of control. The fact that there are 12 people who can still qualify for a Democratic debate at this point is a little nutty, especially when you look at what the RNC and Trump are doing as far as fundraising. They are pulling in massive numbers. I think they just reported everybody's fundraising for the last quarter, and between Donald Trump himself and the RNC, which has already said that they're supporting Trump in 2020, so you could just add both of their numbers together. I mean, it's all going to go towards the same person. It's at like $150 million in 1 quarter. If the DNC and whoever their candidate is wants any chance in hell of being able to catch up numbers-wise, they've got to start narrowing this down. You got to find your candidate. Like, you've got to find, like, this is nuts. Like, this disaster has to stop, and it has to stop. And I'll say it again, and I say it every single time I do this rant, it has to stop sometime before next year. Like, there's no way that you can go into 2020 with 12 candidates that can make it onto a debate stage. Oh my God, I cannot even begin to imagine a primary with 12 people on the ballot. This is going to be fucking nuts. So the DNC has to get this under control one way or the other. And the only way I can see is just drastically upping the requirements for making it onto the debate stage. So anyway, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So as always, if you did make it this far, thank you for listening. And as always, if you do like this, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Libertarian Institute, and you can also find me on Patreon. Link will be in the show notes. Take care, and until next time.